Hey, Dallas. I'm over in Victor, Idaho. I'm with this awesome guy right here, Scott Fitzgerald. He's one of our coaching clients too. And you've set for yourself a get fit or get fitter, get healthier goal. And Scott, he didn't necessarily set that goal. Did you set that goal?
Oh yeah, that was a goal.
Oh, that
That
was
was
a
one of
goal.
my 90-day
Sorry.
goals.
Yeah,
Yep.
goes to show you what I know. Anyway, he came up with this awesome system that I think you can benefit from. That's what we talked about in our last session. So this is Scott Fitzgerald, who is going to, in short order, teach you this awesome system that he developed.
Hey Dallas. Okay, so this is intended to be super simple,
And he's got his notes down there.
no
He may have to
brainer,
refer
but
to them.
I always had to look back at it. Honestly, I never memorized the scale. I always had to look back, but every week I was tracking, every day I was tracking my exercise. And at first,
Oh, hold it up. Let me just let
Yeah.
him get a shot of
and
that.
I can type this out for you too.
Yeah. So he scored it like 1 through 6, and then he wrote some definitions, and then Dallas each session, because we always have metrics associated with goals. Scott would give me his, what do we call it? Your
Exercise points.
exercise points.
That's all
That's
it
what we
was,
called
yeah.
it. Exercise points, and he'd go 17, 14, 21, whatever it was for that particular period or for those weeks. Yep. Okay.
So when we first started this, the idea was to track exercise and then learn.
Because you weren't exercising.
I wasn't exercising enough, and it was. I mean,
Yeah.
I would squeeze it in here and there when I had a chance, and I would blast out a bike ride, or I would get out for a ski. We live up in the mountains here, but I definitely was feeling not exercised enough, and so with
It was
Bill's
affecting
help,
your performance
absolutely
at work. I mean, at work.
I mean, it was affecting my performance at work. It was affecting my relationship with my wife. It was affecting my bonding with my son, my own personal health, everything. So, Bill encouraged me to come up with a metric to track it. And at first, I didn't really know how to do that. So I developed this little scale, but then I didn't really know what the scale meant. So I had to go through a number of weeks of tracking it, measuring it, counting it, and then figuring out, well, how many points is a good week and how many points is not enough during the week.
And can I just interrupt? Yeah. And that was just subjective. It was just like
Totally
how you
subjective.
felt.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Did I feel, up? Did I feel good? Did I feel high performance? Yeah. Are things with my wife on a good track? All those things. Like, did it feel like a good week?
Yeah. And then over time, you kind of knew where your range was.
It became really consistent. Like when I was in the right range. So it's a scale from 1 to 6. Every time I exercised, it was either a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or 6. And at the end of the week, I would count them up in a 7-day period, and really consistently, like if I was in the high teens, I felt good. If I was in the mid 20s, it felt awesome. That was like, yeah, great week. If I was in the low teens, that wasn't that good of a week. If it was single digits, it was like, yeah, I was not. That was an off week for sure.
Right.
So it was a range. I was shooting for high teens to low 20s, and when I achieved that, things felt good. But I couldn't always get out for long periods of time. So I wanted to make sure that I had some reference to consistent exercise for short duration of time. But sometimes that short duration of time would be really high intensity, or sometimes it would be really low intensity. I just got out and took a walk, enjoyed nature,
Right.
So, but other times I would go out for a long period of time, but I wouldn't be killing myself. I just happened to be able to carve out 3 or 4 hours, and that was awesome.
Could be like a long hike.
Mm-hmm.
Or in Scott's case, he's a bike rider. What we talked about was high intensity HIT interval training, which is really short, really hard, which is what you just described. And then the other one, which I don't know what it is, Dallas, it's just like more aerobic, go for a long bike ride.
Yeah, let me explain the different points. So
he's reading from his notes.
So score number 1, an exercise moment that only got a 1, was under 30 minutes of low level intensity. So I'm fortunate enough to live close to my work of the time. And so I would ride my bike to work often, but I don't really like hammer it on the way to work. I just cruise to work, and it's short. It doesn't take me very long at all. So that would be like a number 1.
It's like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, if that. Or if I walked around the block with my son or took the dog for a walk, you know, it's exercise. Like you're out there doing something, but it was, you know, not a lot of points. Then number 2 was under 30 minutes, still just like number 1, but high intensity. So this is that HIT, high intensity training that Bill was talking about, where I'd get on my bike and I would go crank. I would, you know, put some tunes on or an audiobook I was listening to, and I would just go power out, hammer out a half an hour or less of exercise.
And in your case, Dallas, if you're not going to be riding, you could go to the local high school and do stairs, you know, on the up like the, what do you call that? Where the bleachers,
Perfect.
bleacher stairs.
That's exactly what I would call it too.
Or you go to the track and you do. Dr. Paul Arciero was on our podcast not long ago. He was talking about how important sprinting is. Even though if I sprinted, it would be embarrassingly. I wouldn't want anybody to see me. Is that a walrus running down the track? But anyway, you could do that. But high intensity training, big important thing.
So then the next one, number 3, is up to an hour of low level. So again, I kind of crafted this around my own life, and this is the way my exercise blocks kind of break out. So sometimes I would do something for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, up to an hour, but it would still be low level intensity. I'd go for a longer bike ride, or I'd go for a long walk. You know, a lot of times it's with my son, something I do with my son, where I'd get out, I'd be in nature, I'd be exercising, but I wasn't really like pushing it by any means.
Yeah.
Number 4 was...
And before we do that, and you could go to the local park, put Carson in the stroller, or put Carson in the backpack, and just walk for an hour. Listen to some podcasts, enjoy nature, something like that. But no different than what Scott was doing.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Number 4 is also up to an hour. So you see some consistency. Number 1 and number 2 are up to 30 minutes. Number 3 and number 4 are up to an hour. But then there's the low level and high level. So number 3 was up to an hour low level intensity. Number 4 is up to an hour high intensity. And for me, that was a fast bike ride, a workout class. Okay, so I also had some... All right, I'm going to back up with what I just said, because I've stopped tracking this now. I've gotten into a rhythm where it's become more habitual, and my life has changed, so I don't need to track this quite as much as I did. It was very, very helpful to get back into a rhythm, but now I'm in the rhythm, so I forgot. Number 4 is up to an hour of high intensity or 2 to 3 hours of low intensity. So up to an hour of high intensity for me would be a fast bike ride, and 2 to 3 hours of low intensity would be like a family ski. So we live in the mountains, we go skiing, but if I'm skiing with my 5-year-old, we're just cruising, we're not going fast. But we do it for hours on end, and so that would be a 4. And that's a really high quality event. Even though I didn't get, you know, crazy aerobic workout, I had an awesome outside experience. I was physically active, I was exercising, and that gets big points. That was a 4.
So for you, Dallas, it could be you and Leslie were paddling. Was it kayaks or canoes? I can't remember. But you paddled a long day. And gosh, I don't know if you can do that with a baby, right?
Sure.
So maybe you're not
yes,
doing...
you
Oh, you can?
Canoe, yeah, totally.
Scott says, yes, you can.
Get out there.
Scott knows all this stuff. But anyway, you know, you could go out for the afternoon for a couple hours. But obviously you have the baby, so you're worried about Carson, and maybe you're just paddling and enjoying, but you could go do that for a couple hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a 2-hour walk with a stroller, a jog. If you guys get into bike riding, which I think is really, honestly, the easiest thing to get exercise with a baby is a bike, because you can get a bike trailer. And then I know Atlanta has a growing pathway network, and you can get out there on the bike and just pull Carson and you just go for a couple hours at a chill pace, not hammering, just, you know,
talking,
out there talking, enjoying the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then there's number 5, and that was 1 to 3 hours of moderate to high intensity. So that's when I broke through that 1 hour barrier. It wasn't just an hour or less. It was more than an hour, but it wasn't all day. It was more than an hour, and I was pushing hard. This is something I would do with my friends or with my wife if my kid wasn't around. She's, you know, pretty athletic. So
pretty athletic? That's an understatement.
So this was like, number 5 is almost what I did on a regular basis before I had a child. And when I had time available to just go out and spend 2 hours doing what I really wanted to do. That's a 5.
I think Dallas has forgotten life before a child. He has no idea what he did with his life with all that time. Ha ha ha.
My son's 5 now. It does come back. It's great.
He's kidding you.
Number 6, that's the top highest score, and I wanted to save this for something that was pretty epic. You know, you don't get a lot of 6s with a kid, but I wanted something out there that if I had one of these moments, I had a point for it, so a point system for it. So number 6 is 3+ hours of moderate to high intensity, or 1 to 3 hours of extreme intensity. So moderate intensity for me would be like a bike ride for 3 hours where I was, I was going pretty good. High extreme intensity would be like I went and did a bike race and I was in it and it was a long distance thing and I was pushing the whole time. Or I went out on an all day epic adventure with a buddy and, left in the morning, came back for dinner type of thing. So that's a 6. And that's the scale. It's pretty simple. I would have to look back at it all the time. So I have this. I also highly recommend this. It's called the Passion Planner. Mm-hmm. It's a day planner. You have to add your own Guinness sticker. Ireland sticker. It doesn't come with that.
It does not come with the Guinness sticker.
But in the front of it, I just had this listed out, my exercise scale. And you're working with Bill, so I'm sure this doesn't shock you. I have my values system here. My top 10 lighthouse values.
Yes.
And so this would be my reference. I would look back at this and just say, oh, wait, what did I do today? I went for a walk. So what is that, a 2? Is that a 1? I can't remember. And so I just look back and say, oh, yeah. And every day, I'll even show you some pages here. Oh, yeah. So here's just a messy week right here. But you can see these circles here. I skied. It was a 4. I went for a boys mountain bike ride. It was a 5. This looks like a pretty good week already.
Road to work and back.
Road to work and back. That was a 2. I did a big ride on the weekend. It was a 5. So I just, I would just circle at the end of the day. or the next day, I would just circle and say, well, yesterday was a 4. Yesterday was a 2. Yesterday I had nothing. And at the end of the week, when I did my call with Bill, I would just give him I'd count it all up and just say, yeah, it was a 17. Oh, sweet. That was a good week. I did feel good that week. Yeah. Oh, wow. 17. That's a good number. I'm going to remember that.
Yeah. And I think what I told Scott, and I think what Scott would agree, is that's all personal. Mm-hmm. A 17 for you might be a 30 for me. And, it could be over the top for me. I'm dying. And maybe your 17 would be a 10 for Scott, and it just wouldn't be enough. So it's just a matter of relativity and consistency, and then checking your feel.
Yeah, I think that was the key. It's just to have something that was measured, that old adage, what gets measured gets managed. And for me, it really held true. It was like, I never thought about measuring my exercise on a metric basis like that. It's starting to quantify it, and it worked. It helped tremendously. It was great.
It helped. And now, would you not, it's no longer something you necessarily have to measure because it's become more of a habit. Mm-hmm. You kind of know, like where your range is, and you kind of know you've had, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm speculating.
Well, you know what I think it is? I think it's also, I agree with that it does become habitual, but I also think it's where you are in life. So we all go through periods of time, the ebb and flow, where life is harder to do exercise. Mm. And when I was tracking this, I owned a bicycle shop. We were coming into the spring. It was super busy, and I was trying to sell the shop. So I was interviewing prospective buyers. I was putting together a deal. I was trying to sell this shop. So it was like 2 full-time jobs, plus family, and exercise was the first thing I sacrificed. It was just gone. So I was in a period of time where I knew that I would be more effective running the bike shop and trying to sell the bike shop if I was exercising, but I couldn't find time to exercise. And measuring it made a difference for me. I was in a period of time in my life where I almost had to measure it to do it. Right now, thankfully, I successfully did sell the bike shop, and I've got a little bit more breathing room in my life, so exercise comes a little bit more naturally, so I don't have to measure it as much. So I think that's a big part of it too, where you are in your life. And
true, and he has a newborn.
Yeah, and you have a newborn. Of any time, the craziest periods of my life were when I had a newborn. Craziest periods of time. It's nuts. It does get easier, trust me.
Yeah, and we're both laughing because we both remember that.
Help me. Insanity.
But still, though, what I've told Dallas, there was a period of time where he wanted to just kind of wait because Carson was just like really using up all his free time, plus the company, plus the remodel of the house and all that. So, but would you not agree that it's wise, even or for you, it was wise that even in the midst of the frenziest chaotic time, for you to at least get 2 points, or 10 points that week rather than a big fat zero, was better than not exercising at all.
Yeah, and I think I would add to that, Bill, that a lot of times you do get exercise, but you don't recognize it, and sometimes there's a placebo effect of simply just recognizing it. Like if you work in a tall building and you take the stairs up to your desk, but you might think, oh, I'm not exercising at all and I feel beat down. And it's like, well, no, you walked from the far end of the parking lot to work, or you walked up that flight of stairs. And I think just talking about it and referencing it and respecting it matters. Even if it's a 2, and that's all you can do that week, but you just said, yeah, you know what? I did exercise. I got out, I took the baby for a walk around the block, where normally you might not consider that exercise, but it is. And then sometimes it's all you get.
Right.
And measuring it and saying, yep, okay, pat yourself on the back a little bit. I got some this week. It wasn't what I wanted, but I got some. I think that helps.
Celebrate.
Yeah.
Celebrate. Yeah. Well, listen, we took 15 or so minutes of Scott's time. He's got a dinner party coming up. So,
with this guy, I'm very thankful for.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that dinner. And Dallas, we've took 15 minutes of your time. But I just thought that this was helpful. We talked about it last week. Scott is awesome. And if there's anybody that you should be learning from in certain areas of your life, especially this one right now, it's him. Thanks a lot, Dallas. See you later.
Good to meet you, man. Good luck.